Hello there, and a very, very warm welcome to my YouTube. My name's Chris, and today I'm taking a look at a very brave 18-year-old RAF serviceman, and his name is John Hannah. He earned the Victoria Cross very early in 1940. John was born in Paisley, Scotland on the 27th of November 1921. He was the son of an employee of the Clyde Trust, and after receiving an education at Bankhead Public School, Victoria Drive, Glasgow, John Hannah started to earn a living as a shoe salesman. However, it was on the 15th of August 1939 he decided to enlist in the RAF for a 6-year regular engagement, and after his initial training at RAF Cardington, was posted to No. 2 Electrical Wireless Training School on the 14th of September 1939 to train as a wireless operator. On qualifying in this trade, he was sent to No. 4 Bombing and Gunnery School at West Frole for a brief course in air gunnery, and on the 18th of May 1940 he was sent to the 16 Operational Training Unit Upper Hayford to complete his aircrew instruction as a wireless operator air gunner. His stay was brief. On the 11th of August he arrived at RAF Scampton to join 83 squadrons who were flying the Hampden bomber for operations, and on the 15th of September 1940 15 Handley Page Hampdens bombers took off from RAF Scampton in Lincolnshire to attack enemy barges moored at Antwerp in readiness for Operation Sea Lion. During this action, the plane piloted by Pilot Officer C.A. Connor was hit by anti-aircraft fire and caught fire. The navigator and rear gunner, Flight Sergeants D.A. Hayhurst and G. James, bailed out. However, the radio operator, Sergeant J. Hannah, fought and extinguished the blaze. Though terribly burnt, this allowed the plane to return to Scampton, and the pilot, Connor, received the DFC and Hayhurst the DFM. On landing the aircraft, the true extent of John's injuries became apparent, and he was immediately arranged to transport him to nearby service hospital for emergency treatment. And then, on the 1st of October 1940, came the official awards of a VC to Sergeant John Hannah, the youngest recipient of the Victoria Cross in the RAF at that time. While in service in the RAF, on that incredible occasion when he was the Hampden he was flying in was returning to England, working under conditions which caused burns to his face and eyes, Sergeant Hannah succeeded in extinguishing the fire. He then crawled forward to ascertain that the Navigator had left the aircraft and passed the latter's log and maps to the pilot. The airman displayed courage, coolness and devotion to duty of the highest order, and by his action in remaining and successfully extinguishing the fire under conditions of the greatest danger and difficulty, enabled the pilot to bring the aircraft back to its base. Though suffering significant injury, Sergeant Hannah was sent to England to convalesce, and on October the 10th, 1940, was when he was awarded the Victoria Cross at Buckingham Palace. Unfortunately, due to ill health complications as a result of his injuries, he did not return to service. John was discharged from the RAF in 1942 and subsequently contracted tuberculosis, from which he never recovered from. Now, another interesting fact about John Hannah's life after being discharged from the RAF. He was quoted as saying, "I long to be back in the Royal Air Force again and to fly with the boys. After getting my VC, I had 2 serious crashes and had to come off flying. My nerve had gave way and I could not carry on. I was discharged. I do love being at home with my wife and daughter, but I should prefer to be behind my guns in the air. The medical authorities have told me I must not work for 6 months. I'm now taking life easy and passing time, giving short talks on flying, as I cannot forget the RAF. Everyone has been very kind to me, both at my hometown in Glasgow and here in Leicester." However, due to his much reduced income, he was often asked to give talks, and he took to the stage, and his first appearance would be at the Hippodrome Theatre in Ipswich on Monday the 15th of February 1943. And during his talks on stage, he told the audience funny stories about when he was a rookie, another about his first flight, and then about the flight during which he won the VC for battling out the flames with his bare hands over Antwerp. Afterwards, he saluted the audience and marched off to whistles and applause and the autograph photos of him, which would be sold for 2 shillings each in aid of the RAF Benevolent Fund. The first few nights of his shows, John appeared on stage wearing his RAF uniform, but after the show on Friday, he was approached by an RAF officer accompanied by a police officer who told him it was illegal for him to wear his flight sergeant's uniform and that he would be prosecuted if he continued to do so. After the show, he went with the officers to the police station where the regulations were read out to him. On the Saturday, he appeared on stage wearing civilian clothes without his VC ribbon. Instead, he wore the badges of the British Legion and the Royal Air Forces associated on his jacket lapels. Even though he said he cannot make regular stage contracts due to his ongoing treatment, he still undertook public duties. As the week after his Ipswich stage shows, he was touring munitions factories on the behalf of the Ministry of Information. It was very sad that John Hannah was treated in this manner, almost scandalous, I would say. But over the next couple of years, John took up employment as a taxi driver, and when he and a friend purchased 2 cars and he started a taxi business. It was a struggle for them, and the business would be wound up in early 1945. In January 1945, John branched out and opened his own cycle shop in Leicester. Unfortunately, by 1947, his health had deteriorated to such a state that he became bedridden. And in January 1947, and by this time, Janet and John now had 3 daughters, Josephine, Jacqueline and Jennifer. John was admitted to Markfield Sanatorium on the 31st January 1947, after being seriously ill in bed at home for several weeks. His wife Janet as well was looking after their 3 daughters and had also been his nurse at home. Sadly, John passed away and his funeral service was arranged for Wednesday the 10th of June, ironically the day of his daughter Jacqueline's 3rd birthday. The service was held at St James's, the great church in Birstall. And interestingly, at his funeral the coffin was draped in the RAF ensign and carried by a bearer party of RAF personnel from nearby RAF Wimswold. The station also provided a firing party under the command of Squadron Leader C. Wright from the base. Well, I really hope you found my short film about this remarkable young 18-year-old interesting. I found it very heartwarming, very incredibly amazing, partly because my own father was serving in Northern Europe at 20 years of age, and the courage that these men betrayed is just remarkable. John Hannah's headstone is inscribed, "Courageous duty done in love. He serves his pilot now above." And 20 years later, on the 6th of May 1967, his wife Janet presented her husband's medals to 83 Squadron at RAF Scampton. His wife Janet Hannah was later interred at Birstall with her husband, and the inscription reads, "Loved and remembered always, Janet Hannah, aged 83 years. When 83 Squadron was disbanded later, the medals were passed on to RAF Scampton itself. The medals are now held in the keeping of the RAF Museum at Hampden. Thank you very, very much for watching along. I'm partly sad that it was such a sad tale, but it was well worth remembering. Take the greatest of care, and I wish you all the very best, and I'll see you on the next film. Cheers.